The story of the day Lisa McPhee was raped by the kidnapper for 26 hours. I don't want to spoil it for you before we start. Like and subscribe. 17-year-old Lisa finished her work late in a restaurant in Florida and rode her bicycle back to her grandmother's house where she lived. It was past 1 o'clock in the morning. In fact, Lisa was not in a rush to return, as her life with her grandmother was not happy, as she was being bullied, and the assault and harassment by her grandmother's friend, Maurice, while her grandmother was ignoring her. While she was riding her bike slowly in the street, Lisa noticed a car parked on the side of the road. At first, she did not pay much attention to it, but I wish she had paid attention, as Lisa was surprised by the car's owner hitting her and knocking her to the ground. He gets down and puts her on her shoulders and puts her with her eyes covered inside a car. Then he also puts her bike in the back of the car. Anyone else would have collapsed, but Lisa, despite her young age, wanted to survive, or at least for her kidnapper to be caught if he killed her. She did not want her love to be in vain. Lisa remained completely silent, but as much as she could, she tried to see through her blindfold and was able to pick out the color and brand of the car seats from the inside. The kidnapper took her to his house and raped her repeatedly for a full 26 hours. But Lisa held her ground, and due to her keen intelligence, she noticed that the killer was abnormal and had a childish mind. So she tried to convince him that she approved of his actions and told him that she would be his secret lover, and asked him to allow her to touch his face so that she would keep his features in her head, and he allowed him. She allowed her to enter the bathroom. Lisa spread her fingerprints all over the bathroom and threw her hairpin under the bed. When the kidnapper finally got tired and fell asleep, she lifted the blindfold from her eyes a little and saw the details of the house and the kidnapper's appearance. Her plan, as she mentioned, was to arrest the perpetrator after she became certain that he was going to kill her, so she would protect other girls from this fate. But gods will intervene. He told her that it was time to get rid of her, so he tied her up again, blindfolded her, and took her by car to a densely wooded area. During the way, Lisa did another smart thing, as she bit her little finger and left drops of water. Her blood ran down the seat of the car, and when they arrived, he took her down and sat her on the ground near a large tree, then put the gun to her head to kill her, but she cried and begged him to spare her life, so he hesitated to kill her, then suddenly decided to release her, and the kidnapper actually left Lisa in one of the parks after he returned her. She took her bike and set off to return to her grandmother's house. She insisted on filing a report about her kidnapping and rape. Despite the refusal of her grandmother and her lover, Maurice, Lisa went alone to the police station, where no one believed her and laughed at her words. How could a young girl who had been kidnapped and frightened think of leaving evidence and keeping the details? They thought she was a teenager looking for fame, so Lisa collapsed in grief and sadness, as she became the subject of ridicule instead of helping her and relieving her. Then the savior came, Detective Larry Pinkerton, a member of an investigation group that has been tracking and chasing a serial killer for months. He listened carefully to Lisa's statements and found many facts in her words. He asked for a comprehensive examination of Lisa. They extracted red fibers from her clothes, which the investigator linked to their ongoing search for a serial killer and rapist who had committed 9 recent murders of women. Lisa brought a treasure to the investigators, and she was able to give the kidnapper's facial features to the painter, and she gave the make of the car. Not only that, but she was so clever and intelligent that she accompanied the investigator by car to the place from which she was kidnapped, and she was able, with her intuition, to know the turns that the kidnapper took while driving. The car arrived at a place near his house, and the investigator monitored all the cars in the area in order to identify a car similar to the one that Lisa described in terms of model and colors. Indeed, the suspect's car was spotted, and they secretly took some pictures of him and presented them to Lisa, who confirmed that he was the kidnapper. The investigator led the raid on the kidnapper's house, and they actually found Lisa's fingerprints and evidence that she left in the killer's house, including her hairpin under the bed, her fingerprints inside the bathroom, and drops of her blood under the car seat, so that one of the worst killers and rapists in American history was arrested. Bobby Joe Long. He was born in 1953 in Virginia. His childhood was miserable as he was born with an extra. Not only that, but he had a very attached relationship with his mother, and he continued to sleep with her in the same bed until adolescence, and he sabotaged any relationship she had with men in order to stay with him only. After completing his high school studies, Bobby married his schoolmate Cynthia in 1974, and they had 2 children. However, in 1980, Cynthia filed for divorce and custody of the 2 children to get rid of Bobby, who had become completely abnormal and violent and was beating her. Bobby then moved to the state of Florida, the Tampa Bay area, and began his series series of crimes. Bobby would hunt his victims through buying and selling advertisements in newspapers. He would pretend to be a buyer and go to the victim's house with a rape kit, and when he discovered that the owner of the house was alone, he would rape her. The toll of Bobby's rape reached 50 crimes until rape alone no longer satisfied the evil instinct inside his sick mind, so he turned to murder to satisfy his sick whims. He headed to the area of prostitutes in Tampa Bay and began hunting his victims, and the police began finding the bodies of naked prostitutes in strange positions and strange places. The methods of killing varied between strangulation, slitting the neck, stuffing part of their clothes into their mouths, and violating their bodies to satisfy his sadistic desires. The killing spree continued for 8 months in 1984, and with the help of the brave Lisa McPhee, he was arrested, without whom the killing spree would have continued. Bobby was sentenced to 26 life sentences for kidnapping and raping Lisa McPhee, and was later tried for the murders and sentenced to death by electric chair in 1999, and the sentence was only implemented in 2019 when he was executed by lethal injection. The police transferred Lisa from her grandmother's house to a care center because of the neglect and abuse she was being subjected to, and her grandmother's lover, Maurice, who was harassing her, was arrested. Lisa now works in the police force and participates in associations to rescue raped women. There is a movie about her kidnapping entitled Believe Me, the Abduction of Lisa McPhee, and here we have reached the end of the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe.